Shalom, shalom, shalom. Welcome to the news and views of the elders. We have a great podcast, a very interesting subject for you today. Babylon, we're talking about the end of an era, talking about Babylon is fallen. Um, this is a very interesting topic. I think it's apropos considering what is going on in the world today. But before we get too far into that, I want to open it up for the other elders, the other co-hosts of the news and views of the elders, and ask them to open up their mics and begin to give your salutations.
Hallelujah. Shalom, everybody. This is Zakim Johnson, also known as Yedidiah. Certainly, we give praise to the Most High, and we welcome you to another episode of News and Views of the Elders. We coming from you from the great city of Indianapolis, home of Kingdom Life Assembly. If you're ever in the city, you're always welcome to come and fellowship with us. Again, we welcome you and we say shalom.
Shalom, family. This is Zakin Hazlet Yahuda Daoud, hailing out of the riverbanks of the Mississippi between Iowa and Illinois. Here at the House of Yah, we certainly welcome you to be a part of this podcast on this evening. Certainly believing through the Ruach that there will be something that we can present to your audience tonight that will be something that you can think upon, act upon, and do some research on, considering the times and everything that we're in right now. So just welcome you to our podcast on this evening, and I say shalom, family.
Shalom, Ms. Bakar. Again, we want to thank each and every one of you for your time, for listening in to this podcast tonight. We certainly pray that the Ruach of Yah will speak to your Ruach, that you would take heed to what he is saying tonight. This is Zakin Saul somewhere here in Babylon.
Hallelujah. And I just want to say at the outset, Yedidiah, you give a great commercial. We need to use you on future commercials because you sure make it feel like everybody that comes through Indianapolis, they got to stop at Kingdom Life Assembly. but anyway,
I'm just a little biased. That's all. A little biased. So that's all.
It's all good. But anyway, Babylon is falling, y'all. Babylon is falling. If you look around and see what's going on in this world today, you see the different nations that are lining up with nations, and you see the collapse of economies and things that are happening. We're gonna dive into this, and we're gonna break this thing down and show you exactly what it is that's going on, how it's collapsing, and what we need to do to position ourselves in order to move forward as the Most High has got us in his proverbial ark. And so from that standpoint, I'm going to turn it over to Yedidiah Johnson and asked him to lead out.
Oh, hallelujah. Well, all praises to the Most High. Yes, it is an interesting subject, and it's another one of these controversial subjects. Should I stay? Should I go? What's going to happen? Is America Mystery Babylon? All these are just circle around, and you got everything out there. So hopefully, today, this evening, this afternoon, something will be said to give some directives of understanding and some clarity concerning this place of Mystery Babylon. First of all, I want to start out by saying, brethren, that Babylon is two things. One, it's a location. Two, it's a system, all operating at the same time. But we're gonna see how the location, and then we're gonna see the system fall. So you're gonna have the location, Then you're going to have the system, because the system is going to linger for a while. The system's going, so people can say, well, I'm going here, I'm leaving, and I'm going there, and I'm leaving, I'm going there. The system will be in place, but the system itself, it will fall. But before the system falls, we're going to have the locations. Now, where's the location? Uh, America is not the only mystery Babylon. It's not the only. The Most High has declared all those that had mistreated. Because remember, when we were scattered to the four corners of the earth, all right, the 12 tribes were scattered. And because of our disobedience, because of our waywardness, our stiff neckedness, the Most High said it in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, between verses 60 and verse 68. He said these things are going to happen. However, during that time of our chastisement, these other nations took advantage. And many times we focus on the transatlantic slave trade. We know historically that was not the only slave trade. There was also the Arab slave trade, which was worse than the transatlantic. The only reason why we talk about the transatlantic because it affects us directly. But the Arab slave trade was worse, and it's still going on to this day. It is still happening. And the Most High said, those individuals, those nations that has came against his children, misused his children, abused his children, he's going to give recompense to those nations. So we are seeing how the Most High is letting Yasharel know he has not forgot about. He has not forgot about the word that he has spoken, because we know his word will not return unto him void. Whatever his word has been sent, it will accomplish. And there is recompense. We can see it even in America. America is doing everything it can to stabilize itself. But believe me, my brothers and my sisters, it will fall. It will fall. And hopefully and prayerfully, your ears are open, your heart is open, you got your pen, you got your paper, because there's going to be a lot of information that's going to come through tonight. And I just wanted to share with my opening part that you're going to see the locations all across the world. The locations are going to fall. And then after that, the system is going to fall. Hallelujah. This is where he's going to gather the two sticks. So get ready, be prepared, because I want to be in that number. How about you? I yield.
All right, Mishpachah, I'm certainly have student my ear and my spirit to receive on tonight from the Zakinium I learned as well. We are in a time at the very end here, and one thing we have said before, if you followed our podcast, and that is Abba Yah works in patterns. There's patterns. There is cycles. There's some verses that I'm going to read on tonight that comes out of the prophet Jeremiah, which was dealing with the Babylon in his day, the children of Yasharel, specifically Yahuda, of the southern kingdom, which was dispersed into Babylon. But also, when we pick up, like we were talking, the theme verse here in Revelation chapter 18. Now, Revelation was written several hundred years after the prophet Jeremiah. So when you're looking at what Jeremiah wrote in the time of the southern kingdom in Babylon, then you see Yahuchanan, they call him John, writing the book of Revelation, and it picks up Babylon again, and it talks about Babylon, and it talks about what is going to become of Babylon. Well, if he's not dealing with patterns there here, then Babylon was already destroyed back in the days before our Messiah. So you have to understand that there is patterns with the Most High Yahweh, and we've spoken of that. I think Zakeem Johnson has spoken of that in past podcasts, and we have to understand that the Most High Yah, what He's spoken with the prophets, because I talk about the prophet Jeremiah, and I read his verses, and some people will say, well, that was back in that day. Back in the day when Jeremiah was a prophet, they went into Babylon. Babylon was destroyed. Yeah, but Revelation talks about Babylon. So you're dealing with the location of Babylon, but then you're dealing with the system of Babylon, which becomes a worldwide system. And then one thing that equates to that is Daniel chapter 11, where he's dealing with the king of the north and the king of the south. Now we might look at it as who's the king of the north, who's the king of the south. In today's standards, and you look at the global north against the global south, and it does speak about the global north finding their end at the time of the global south. So there is going to be an end to this empire. There's going to be an end to Babylon that is worldwide. When you look at the controlling forces, those who have the monetary system, the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, you look at all of the controlling nations, and you're dealing with what they call the global north, which is the like NATO and some of the other ones that have the power over our economy. They have the power over our money. They have the power over industries. They are being threatened right now by China, and they don't want to relinquish any control to China at this hour. But there's some things that's going to happen. It was prophesied in the prophets, and so what I want to read, and I know we're coming. So I guess I'll go to Revelations 18 because I know that's what our theme is, and in Revelation 18. And verse number 1, and after these things I saw an angel come down from the Shamaim, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth have waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. Before I go on from there, because I'm just going on this round here, just look at the first ones there, because now we're dealing with the time after the Mashiach. This is after Jeremiah. Jeremiah had prophesied about the fall of Babylon in his day, but his prophecy was far-reaching, not only in his day, but when you pick up Babylon in Revelation, then you have to go back to what Jeremiah had said about Babylon as well. Babylon is not only a location. When it talks about it here in Revelations 18 and 2, and it talks about the location. When you look at not only our nation, but you look at another nation that is almost forbidden for people to speak about on social media because you might be canceled, which shows you how much power and control they have. If I can call out all the nations of the earth, but then there's one nation that if I speak about that nation, then all of a sudden I'm in jeopardy of being canceled, demonetized, and everything else. That lets you know how much power they have. That's evoking a lot of power, and so we can't dismiss that as being a menial thing. That is something that should be recognized. That anytime I speak of this beast or false prophet, then I can be demonetized. They can take my livelihood from me. I can be excluded. You lose all rights to social media. They'll come after your bank account. They come after they'll look at your personal record. If there's anything in your personal record that they can dig up and cause you to be in fear of your freedom. Hey, y'all, that's a lot of power. I don't know. That is a lot of power that they exercise over our lives. So we have to understand when he's talking about Babylon and he's talking about how much power they had, to where it even talks about the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornications, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. There's a lot of kings of the earth. There's a lot of leaders of nations, and they all tie in to one nation. And I look at one nation as being the beast. I look at another nation as being the false prophet. And in the next chapter, in chapter 19, it does talk about the beast and the false prophet. And so we're at a very we're at a critical time, to where it's like I'm thinking of what Shaul, they call him Paul, what he says in the 13th chapter of Romans. He says it's high time that you awake out of sleep. This is where we are right now at this day and time, where the call is where the judgment is going to come down on Babylon. You don't want to be asleep at this time. You do not want to be asleep. You don't want to be unaware. What are you guys talking about? I don't know anything about this. What's going on? I'm totally clueless. You don't want to be in that state. You don't want to be in that position to where you're just totally clueless of what's going on, because as we go on into this, before we end this, there's a matter of preparation, because he even tells us to flee out of Babylon. And I know a lot of people, hey, I don't want to flee. I can't move across the street. How am I going to move somewhere else? Don't bring that. You're trying to bring fear into the equation, and it's not about bringing fear. Because when I read Revelations 18 and I start looking at this location of Babylon and what they are doing, and I look at the nation that has the habitation of devils, every foul spirit, every unclean and hateful bird. Then we'll go to, when I come around again, I want to go to Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, because it even talks about the souls of men and the slaves of men. So when we bring this all together, there should be a clearer picture of what we're talking about. And then, Most High willing, unto His Highness, there should be some type of planning that is put in place. Because when you look at what's going on currently as I'm speaking, what happened last night at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, what is going on today as I speak, and then what is going to happen on Monday and through the week here, this is high time that we wake out of sleep. This is not something to take trivially. This is a trivial conversation. No, this is not a trivial cast. This is not a trivial podcast. This is something where we're trying to awaken the Mishpachah, informing the Mishpachah, and allowing the Mishpachah to know what must I do in preparation, because Babylon is falling. The writings on the wall. It's almost like the prophet Daniel in the 4th chapter and 5th chapter, where he talks about, it's the 5th chapter, I think, is in Babylon, where he's seen the writing on the wall. He's seen a hand writing on the wall, and it troubled the king. He didn't know what, in his banqueting and his celebration and what they were doing, and it caught him, and it frightened him, because he's seen something on the wall, the handwriting on the wall, but he couldn't determine what it was. And so we have to understand that everything has already been written. Abba Yah's not going to write anymore. His Ruach is waking us up. His Ruach is informing us. His Ruach is leading us into this time that we understand what has already been written. I'm not looking at something new to be written. It's already been written. And so I have to get an understanding and follow the Ruach that is going to lead me into all truth on what is written by the prophets. So Revelations 18 there, dealing with this certain location, because it even talks about what's the destruction of this location and how the other nations are going to look upon this location, and they're going to mourn because of the merchandise, the investments, the economy, the market. And I'll just drop this here right now. There's a derivative market, and there's a lot of things that's going on behind the scenes, because you have people that are expecting. There's people who are investing money and they're expecting the bottom to fall out so they can profit. So what is it that they know? Babylon is going to fall, and I'll land there until the next time. Sure.
Hallelujah. This is a great conversation. And it seems like with all of the Zakinium are basically on the same page in terms of our understanding of the end of the era or end of the age, which really is the end of an era. And I think that, the end of the era really refers to the end of the era of human history and a transition into a new era. This is not the end of the world. I want you to understand. This is just the end of the era. Empires, they rise, they peak, and then they decline. The Roman Empire, you got the British Empire, all the other empires had a period when they thought that they was going to be on top forever until it wasn't. And the difference is that this empire that we are talking about is not necessarily an empire, but it's globalization. It's not a single empire. It's like it's not a single empire that has centralized power. And it's a network of companies, of global companies and conglomerates that are running this world. And it is a trade system, a financial system, if you will. It's cultural. So instead of a complete collapse, it'll move and transfer itself into another system, the final system, I think. And it's not like I said, it's not a total collapse. It's more of a restructuring. And again, when you read the book of Revelations 18:3, it describes what that looks like. And we have been over this, but I just want to go over it again from my perspective. It says, all the nations, Revelations 18:3 says, all the nations have drunk the wine of the wrath of her fornications, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacy. So we're talking about nations. We're talking about a nation because it says her. But you're talking about other nations, and then they go into they're talking about committing fornication with her with the merchants. We are talking about conglomerates. We're talking about companies. We're talking about multinational companies that are running this earth world, i.e., Zakim Hasted made reference to one in particular, a group of people who are really controlling or the puppeteers for America. And so you look at it, it's not so much when will it fall, because it's falling now. It's a matter of what's going to replace it. And then to Zakin Haslit's point, what are we going to do to position ourselves when it happens? So when you look at in the book of Daniel, it's the second chapter, the prophet interprets, where Daniel interprets the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, and he interprets the dream, and it's like, you had the let me pull it up so I can read it real quick. Well, I could just go just talk about it. In Daniel the second chapter, it talked about the prophet Nebuchadnezzar having a dream, and Daniel of a statue, and Daniel he interprets it. He talks about the head of gold being Babylon, the chest being of silver, which is Medo-Persia or even Iran. The belly of bronze was Greece, and the leg of iron was Rome. And all of these were, all of these were empires that were global empires of the time. Then it goes down and talks about the feet, the iron and the clay, which is like America and the EU, and they are divided and unstable empire. And that's why Daniel, the second chapter, verse 34, you go down to 35, it talks about how there was a stone that was not made of hands, that was tossed in there, and it broke it all to pieces. This is what's happening now. Regardless of what it looks like, this is what's happening now. We are looking at the end of an age, and then you go down to Daniel 43, and it says, and they shall mingle themselves together with the seed of men, but they won't cleave to one another. That's because they're so divided and splintered. You have NATO that's breaking away from, that's fractured now, because there's part of it, of them who want to just go off and do their own thing and restructure. You have America that's diametrically opposed to all the things that NATO is doing. They, and even when he called on NATO to help them in this war, they stood on the sidelines. So you see the fracturing of that iron and clay. That's why it don't mix. The iron and clay at the feet don't mix. Why? Because there is a fracturing. They fragile and they unstable, and they cannot be held together. They have alliances with one another, but they don't trust one another. They can't trust the president of the United States, really, to honor what he says he's going to do, because he's unstable. So now everybody's looking for their own economic independence. They're looking for their own survival, because they understand that America is not going to protect them. America is about America. And any global attempt, to unify them, it's still going to remain unstable. So when you look at Matthew 24 at the end of the age, because this is what they were talking about, they say, Master, tell us what is going to happen, what is going to happen at the end of the age. And, he goes on. First he says, make sure you're not deceived. Then he goes on and articulates, this is the Mashiach. He goes on and begin to tell them what's going to happen. He goes down to here. He says in verse 24:7, he says, and nations shall rise against nations, and kingdoms against kingdoms, and there shall be famine, pestilence, and earthquakes. What he describes is global distress. The inability to cross different systems. As Zakin Johnson and Hastings indicated, the duality of Babylon is not just the place and the location; it is a system as well. So So when you look at the transition period, it's not an instant destruction. It calls for an erosion over time. It's, and the Mashiach calls it the beginning of sorrows. Okay. That's what he calls. He says it's the beginning of the sorrow. So it's not just a collapse, it's a process of unraveling. And this is what we are seeing right now. And even with the war that's going on over there with the Strait of Hormuz, we talked about it earlier with a different group today. We talked about how the Strait of Hormuz, it's not about weapons of mass destruction. It never is. We done heard that's it. We done heard that game, that scenario before. We heard that with the Desert Storm, excuse me. Weapons of mass destruction. It's no weapons of mass destruction. It's not about that. And it's not even about the oil. No, the Strait of Hormuz and what's going on over there is about the transitioning from the dollar, the hegemony of the dollar to cryptocurrency. The Strait of Hormuz, it was free. You can go through there free. Now they're making them pay a toll. Okay. Now that toll is going to cost $2 million per tanker. Now, think about it. All monies that is internationally transferred has to go through the American SWIFT system. It's the system they designed with the central bank the Treasury, and they have to get our dollars. They take their dollars and exchange them for our dollars, and then they can do the exchange because our dollar is the central dollar of the world. Okay. But because Iran is not going to give America not one single dollar, they trying to hurt us in every way they can. They are going to use an alternative means of currency. And that alternative means of currency is going to be crypto. Bitcoin, they even have their own coin that they are developing so that they can do business outside of the system that has been created. So they collapsing the economy. Not only they're collapsing the dollar and everything, but they're creating a new system. Now you get a few countries that want to do business and get their oil out to market using another system. How long do you think it's going to be before the rest of the world catches on and make sure that and they bypass the system? Because the United States has weaponized the dollar by sanctions and everything else to the point where people are sick of us. So now they are getting an alternative system. That's what BRICS is all about, creating that alternative system where they will trade within their own group and don't have to worry about getting dollars. So now the dollar is about to collapse. It's already collapsed. They ain't pulled the plug yet. They ain't just pulled the plug yet. They waiting on what the Mashiach said, that they're going to be eating, sleeping, and partying and marrying until the flood came. They want us comfortable in the system that we're currently in. They don't want us to get prepared. They don't want us to be ready for what's about to happen. They don't want that. They want to catch you by surprise. That way, when they introduce this new transition of new system, they can have you enslaved. They can trap you in this economy to where you can't do anything, where your money is no good because they got a new currency. And then it's going to be, because it's going to be totally electronic, then they control that currency and control you. So look up Western Assets Reserve while we on online right now. Look up what Western Asset Reserve is. The acronym is WAR, WAR, which is what we are in right now. Western Assets Reserve, it is a thing that President Trump has created. It's a stable coin that they're going to use. It's Western Assets. They have partnered with BlackRock, and BlackRock is tokenizing all the assets of the world if they can. They matter of fact, recently here in Indianapolis, they just took control of our gas company. So we pay them. We don't pay AES anymore. We pay BlackRock. So they tokenizing all the assets of the world, and then they're going to create this coin that you have to use in order to access it. Man, like I said, the Strait of Hormuz is a power play, but it's not about oil. Think about this, y'all. Think about this, and I'm going to stop because I can go on all day about this because this is a lot of BS. Think about this. They say that 20% of all the world's oil is going through the Strait of Hormuz. And as a result, we have a crisis. What happened to the 80%? How is 20% going to keep us get in a headlock? 20%. But yet there's going to be inflation, they said. There's going to be higher gas prices. All the raw material is going to increase. All kind of different scenarios as a result of a blockade or an issue over there in the Middle East. How is that possible? Where 20% of the world's oil reserves are hamstrung, but yet 80% is still available, and we got a crisis. One thing they didn't taught us, if you wasn't paying attention, I'm gonna explain it to you. And I'm not talking about explaining it, I'm gonna explain it to you. I'm gonna be the hood today. When they did the COVID thing, they had a conference prior to doing it about how to handle a pandemic. They put it right in our face. They introduced the COVID vaccine. Now, the COVID is the same as a common cold. The same as the common cold. That's what they said it is. The same as a common cold. Now, what is the cold? The cold is when you are sneezing, coughing, and draining your nose, which is actually healing yourself. So they took something that you actually are healing from and made it a pandemic because it's so common. Everybody goes through it. Then they had the vaccine 2 years later. How long we been trying to cure cancer? We've been trying to cure cancer forever, but they get a vaccine for COVID within 2 years? No, they created the crisis and then they had the answer for the crisis. And this is the same thing that's happening right now. They creating the crisis, but they already got the answer. And I yield right there.
All right. Shalom, shalom, everyone. Miss Picard. Again, we thank each and every one of you for listening today. As the Zakim are laying out, I'm going to go totally different, basically, but we are still in the same vibe. Okay. We wanted you all to understand, as our opening scripture was, I believe he came from Revelation 18. But let me say this to the Miss Picard. As Zakim Bateman just in out said he was going to explain being hood. Well, I want to do what they taught me when I went to college. That anytime you write a paper or you want to talk to people, now don't take offense. There's no offense. This is the way they trained us. That you cannot speak to people at a high level. So they teach you to teach it or write it, what they say, on a 5th grade level. Okay, so let's do this. Whenever you open up your Bible and try to understand this book, first of all, we must understand from the standpoint, let me quote this verse. It just came to me, Zacchaeus Johnson. Proverbs 25:2. It's the glory of Yah to conceal a thing, but it's the honor of kings to search out a matter. Listen, reason I brought that out. This book is hidden. Revelation. It's the mystery book. Most people was afraid to ever read it, but it tells you, blessed is the he that readeth and understand from this book. Now, first of all, Mr. Picard, let me say this. Revelation is not written in chronological order. You cannot read the book of Revelation and think you're going to read from verse chapter 1 and go all the way down to chapter 22 and think it's in order. It is not in order. Get that first. All right? So, let's dive into something that is very interesting in this book. This is what the Zacchaeus talked about. Zacchaeus Johnson talked about the location, a system falling. Zacchaeus Hazlitt says it's a pattern, a cycle. Zacchaeus Bateman, of course, he studied about the trade system and Reconstruction and nations. So I want you all, those of you home, if you don't have your Bible near, please write this down. You need to go research this because we're not just bringing this to you just to be bringing. In Revelations, chapter number 6 is what I'm going to start with to deal with the location, the system, the patterns, the cycles, and all this stuff. Revelation, well, before I read it, let me say this. When you open up the book of Revelations, there is a theme here that says the 7 trumpets, the 7 seals, and 7 vows. Miss Picard, listen carefully. The 7 trumpets, the 7 seals, and the 7 vows or 7 bowls, however yours read. They are the same thing. It's the same story. They're not separately. They don't happen separately. They are the same. Okay? You're going to follow. You're going to see it. The trumpets are the shortest stories. The seals are your long stories. And the vows are the shortest of all the stories. Now, write it down. Go back, check me out. If you was to go to Revelation chapter number 8, you'll find it read chapter 8 and 5. Because this is not what I want, but I'm just so I want to show you to prove this. It says, and the angel took the the censer, and filled it with fire on the altar and cast it into the earth. Listen, what happened? And there was what? Voices, thundering, lightning, and earthquakes. Hear it again. There was voices, thundering, lightning, and earthquakes. Those 4 things. We found that in Revelations chapter 8 and 5, right? Okay. Now, that is your seals. Now, if you go to Revelation 11 and 19, 11 and 19, listen to this. I'm going to show you they're the same thing. Revelation 11:19. And the temple of God, or Yah, was open in the Shamahims, and there was seen in his temple the ark of the testimony, and there was what? Lightning, voices, thundering, earthquake. Same 4 things. There you have it again. Now these are the trumpets. There was lightning, voices, thundering, and earthquakes. Now, if you go to chapter 16 of Revelation, I just want y'all to see the pattern that we was talking about patterns. So here they are. Here's your patterns. See the pattern. Revelation 16:18. And there was voices, there go one, thunderings and lightning
And there was a great earthquake. There you go forth. That's your patterns. You see the pattern. See, the Most High give you patterns. Let me get back to where I want to get to. I just wanted to show you that. So you want to see the 7 seals, 7 trumpets, and 7 vials. It's a pattern. You better understand the patterns or the system or the cycle. They are the same stories. So don't get confused. Now, let me go here. I want to start right here because I want to deal with the seals for a second. So Revelation chapter 6. I'm going to read verses 1 through 8. Follow me, Picard. Listen. I'm going to read Revelation 6, 1 through 8. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard as it was the noise of thunder. One of the 4 beasts said, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Remember that. And he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, and I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. That's what Zachary Baby is talking about. And they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the seal, I heard the beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat upon him had a pair of talents in his hand. And I heard the voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and a measure of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine." And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4th beast say, "Come and see." And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed him. And power was given unto him over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and death, and with the beasts of the earth. You know, always remember this. Out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, let every word be established. So, see if we find that somewhere else in the scripture. Let's go to Zechariah. Same chapter 6 in Zechariah. Zechariah, I'm sorry, y'all. I hit the wrong one. Zechariah chapter 6, and we'll begin reading at verse 1. Listen, this is Zechariah now. And I turned and lift up mine eyes and look, and behold, there came 4 chariots, not horses now, chariots, out between 2 mountains. And the mountains were mountains of brass. In the first chariot was a red horse. I thought I saw somewhere there was a red horse before. Red horse. And in the second chariot, black horse. We heard about a black horse. Okay? Listen to the pattern. And in the third chariot, white horse. I saw horse in the other Revelations. And in the fourth, a grizzle and bayed horse. Well, we're going to deal with that one in a minute. Then I answered and said unto the angel that talked with me, "What are these, my Elohim?" And the angel answered and said unto me, "These are the 4 spirits." You better get it. These are the 4 spirits of the Shamahim, which goes forth from standing before Yahuwah of all the earth. The black horse, which are therein, goes forth where? Into the north country. And the white horse goes after them, so he's going into north country as well. And the grizzle goes forth toward the south country. Wow, y'all better follow this. And the bay went forth and sought to go that they might walk to and fro through the earth. And he said, "Get thee hence, walk to and fro through the earth." So they walked to and fro through the earth. Then cried he unto me, saying, Behold, these that go towards the north country have quietened my ruach, or my spirit, in the north country. What in the world's going on with this pattern? I'm telling you, the Most High is awesome. He used Zechariah, and now he's using John the Revelator, and shows us these same horses, different, one called chariot, one is horses. But there was one that was basil and gray in Zechariah, but in Revelation, he's a pale horse. Ooh, what is going on in this picture, y'all? You ask me. Let me just walk this down for you. First of all, the black horse goes in the north country. The white horse, he follows, and it says, these quieted my ruach, or my spirit. That's what the Most High said. So you got to remember, he said these horses are not literally horses. So when you see reading the Bible, please don't read it as horses you see walking in the air, trotting through, because he tell you what they are. They spirits. So we have to find in the Bible or in the world today, because they going, like he said, a red spirit, not a red horse. Where was ever a red spirit? Zacchaeus Johnson, we did this on your Kingdom Life. So here you have a red spirit is in the world today, somewhere moving, going forth in the North Country. Can anybody think, Miss Picard, listen out here as we talk to you. Zacchaeus, we said patterns, locations. So we got to find the location. Where is our red spirit? I know y'all heard of the big red China. That's a red spirit. Russia, that thing is red. So when you look at that, we move quickly here. When you look at that, you see communism. If you look at anything with communism, it deals with red. So that's your red horse. Then again, there was the white one. I want to deal with the white one, even though it's out of order, but because he said the white one followed. So now a white. I've been looking and looking. I said, well, man, what was a white spirit? What's a white spirit? Then one day I happened to be watching TV years ago, and I saw the Pope riding. Every time I see him, he dressed in white. He's got his little white mobile. He had a white helicopter. Then it's a king. He toyed with it's a white helicopter, a white car with this little covering. Said, goodness, Catholicism is white. That's a white spirit. And it quieted your whole spirit. Move on. Let me get his last two, get out the way, because I want to touch on this. Something else I want to touch on. This is too deep for me to go into details. But anyway, the black horse, remember, he had balance. And he was hollering out about a measure of wheat for this, and hurt not the wine or the oil. What will you think you measure on scales? King Bateman was talking about that stuff just not too long ago. You can't be fooled. Capitalism. That's a spirit. We living in a capitalist society. That's a spirit. Trust me. It's a spirit. Last one, and I'm out the way, and then we'll come back next round to go where I really want to go today. As the Zacchaeum, they are helping this because this subject is deep, y'all. But that last basil and gray, or that pale horse, I feel like I ain't seen a pale basil gray. So I went doing some studying, like Zacchaeus Johnson. He's our guy. He go get the Greek and the Hebrew, and you put that H, you go. So like I do have a big old lexicon. I do have this big book. Let me go look in here. See what I find. Well, that word for pale horse is Caros. Let me spell it. CH. Y'all can back check. Check back in. Anything I say, back check. CHLOROS. When you look it up, it really is green. And I know when they was transliterating or translating this, they was like, man, I ain't never seen no green horse. I ain't about to write that. So they left it that way. So it's really mean green, Miss Picard. So you got to ask yourself, last thing I say is, remember he said these are four spirits. What is a green spirit that's in the earth? And I'm moving out the way. A green spirit. Islamism. Everywhere you see Muslim today, I don't care if you go to Iran, Iraq, any of those places, their mosques, their doors are painted green. Their buildings are, when they light it up, it's lit up green. One time, years ago, I remember I saw in America, they had the Statue of Liberty, the top portion of it, and you guys can Google it, and it'll still light up for you. You'll find it. It lit up green. That's a spirit. So I'm showing you patterns. So as we get ready to move forward, I yield, Zakim.
Well, I guess that's on me. Well. We have a plethora of information, just volume. And as Zakin Sauls was talking, now he said you don't try to go over, but all this information, you know, um, the Most High said that the people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. We was talking yesterday in our gathering, and we made mention that from a carnal standpoint, ignorance of the law is no excuse. From a spiritual, ignorance of the word is no excuse when it's right there before us. Now I'm going to do something that's a little bit different. I'm going to teeter off of this a little bit. Still talk about Babylon. Still talk about the downfall, but I also want to deal with the command of coming out of Babylon. Now, coming out of Babylon, we already heard about the four spirits that operates in the world, the system, the four spirits: communism, capitalism, Catholicism, and even Islam. All these are in operation. And when you talk about the Catholic Church, you can't help but bring up the Greco-Roman, Judaism, Christianity. It's all wrapped up in the Catholic Catholicism. But let me just share with this about coming out of Babylon. And I want to speak to the Bantu Hebrew American. I don't like to use African American. I don't want to use Black American. So I'm going to do Bantu Hebrew American. The sufferings that we have suffered are not only because of our ancestors, but also the continuing of disobedience. The continuing. The Most High told the prophet Ezekiel, he gave him a responsibility to be the watchman, to sound the alarm. And this is what we are doing today, sounding the alarm to come out of Babylon, sounding the alarm that Babylon will fall. The Bantu Hebrew America continues to refuse to turn to Yahuwah because you want to be like everybody else. I want to be like Mike. I want to be like the world. You can't have water and oil. They'll never mix. As Zakim Bateman, I believe, I think he said it, that dealt with the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, and Daniel began to describe the statue, and he start with the head, went all the way down to the feet. And those two elements, they do not mix. Every empire, every nation falls, beginning with the Assyrian, all the way from Assyria to Babylonia, to the Medes and Persia, to the Greeks, to the Romans, and even to this last one, America. It will fall. Now, I'm going to say this. Rome was the only one out of that never was conquered. It failed. Assyria was conquered by Babylon. The Medes, Persians, they conquered Babylon. The Greeks came in, but Rome reinvented itself. Because of the structure, it fell flat, but it wasn't conquered. It just really moved over. And America is the same way. But let me just continue on with this. If I read, I'm going to read Deuteronomy, the 13th chapter, real quick. The 13th chapter and verse number 13. Deuteronomy 13:13, and I'll probably add, I'm going to start at verse 12 and go down to verse 14. And it reads like this. I'm reading out of the King James Version as well. If thou shalt hear, say in one of thy cities, which Yahuwah thy Elohim had given thee, to dwell therein, saying, certain men of the children of Belial are gone out from among you, and have withdrawn the inhabitants of their city, saying, let us go and serve other mighty ones which ye have not known. Then shall you inquire and make search, and ask diligently, behold, if it be truth, and if the thing certain, that such abomination wrought among you. I'm going to stop there because I don't want to get over scripturally heavy, but I want you to go back and read that 13th chapter, especially beginning at verse 12. When we deal with the Christianity as we see it today, with all of its false doctrines, all right, all of its false doctrines, this is why he said we got to strip off. We got to unlearn in order to learn, not relearn. I used to say that, but then the Most High checked me, said, stop saying relearning. Why are you going to unlearn just to relearn? So you relearning the very same thing that you unlearn. It don't make sense. So the Most High said, stop saying it. So now we unlearn to learn. We learn what our culture. See, we trying to understand what's going on these last days. We trying to understand the word. Let me tell you something. You cannot do it through American culture. You won't see it. American culture will never push you to Yahuwah. It will never push you or direct you to the Most High. When the Most High gave the law, statute, and the command, it was within our culture. I ain't talking about no African culture. I'm talking about the culture that was in the 12 tribes that came from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's what I'm talking about. So let me finish this saying. So Christianity, with all its false doctrine, is one idol that the Bantu, Hebrew, American is serving. Christianity is not, I want you to hear me, it's not of the Most High. It's man-made, because the Most High did not give us a religion. He gave us a way of life. And he told us, this is how I want you to live. Religion becomes a yoke. And that's what Babylon has done. Babylon said, come, drink with me. Come and part. If you ever have been to a party, if you ever started drinking, you can drink so much, you can lose yourself. You forget yourself. And you forget you do things that you would normally wouldn't do. You're no longer in control. That's why in some liquor stores they say wine and spirits. Hallelujah. So the religion becomes a yoke around it. It becomes shackles. And that's what man has done. Man has taken religion and caused it to be a yoke. But the Most High said, I want you to come out of that. Come out of that. Leave that stuff alone because you won't be able to serve me the way I want you to serve me in the beginning because you're so yoked up. You're so shackled. Let me finish. It has been taught so well that many will give truth, will be given truth and refuse to learn it. And they will interpret it as saying, well, you're fear mongering. As King Hakeless said, we're not fear mongering. We're giving insight. We're giving clarity. And King Saul's already said, all this stuff you can fact check. One thing I will say with this, truth is never afraid of being questioned. I'm going to say it again. When you walk in truth, truth is never afraid to be questioned. Opinions, perspectives will get offended, will get mad. But when truth comes forward, truth is not afraid to be questioned. Truth is not afraid to be sized up because truth will always prove truth. And in my closing of this segment, Christianity is full of Babylonia worship because it was at Babylon back in from the southern tribes when they went into, well, you had the northern, the southern, you had the 10 and the 2. The 10 went to Assyria. And then later on, we find Benjamin and we find Judah going into Babylon. Then Babylon conquered Assyria, and they all mixed in together. And right there, things begin to fall apart. It begin to change right there. Names begin to change. Dates begin to change, all in that Babylonian period. And as I move forward, Christianity uses a lot of biblical phrases. It uses many biblical passages. However, when you look closely into Christianity, you will find that Christianity does not encourage a return to the covenant. No, you'll never see it. So this is why we're saying to you on this day, come out of Babylon. Why? Because we're in the end of the age. The time is winding up. And he already gave us what's going to happen. Famine, wars, rumor of wars, mothers against fathers, fathers against sons, mothers against daughters, divorces, all this stuff that's going on, stem cells, DNA splicing, all this stuff is taking place. Yahushua said, as it was in the days of Noah, and just like it was in the days of Sodom. And I implore you today, come out of Babylon because Babylon is falling. I yield.
All right, Mr. McCobb, looking at the current events, I just want to speak just briefly on some of the current events. We look at a nation that has boasted on the world stage as being the greatest nation. We have one nation that boasts on the world stage as being the number one economy, the number one military might. We are the greatest nation in the history of man. And I mean, it goes on and on and on. And so if you have a nation that is speaking at the big gate like that, you have to realize that the Most High Yah has declared the end from the beginning and knew that this nation would boast of such claims. And it just so happened that the nation that is speaking of such great honor of itself is a nation that holds captive the Most High Yah's people. And just like it was spoken in Jeremiah, talking about the southern nation of Yasharel being held captive by uh, Babylon. It also says in Revelation, the 18th chapter, and I just kind of want to tie this into our subject. Um, Babylon is following the end of an era, the end of an age, because that is certainly where we are economically, militarily, socially, um, globally. We're at a time where it is an end of an age, and when you look at the translation of the King James into English, and it goes from the Greek Septuagint, the Latin Vulgate, in the 24th chapter of Matthew, the 21st chapter of Luke, and in the 13th chapter of Mark, and it talks about the end of the world. And a lot of times we think, well, the end of the world, everything's come to, but that's just the translation in English. Coming from the Latin and the Greek, it's the end of an age. It's an end of an era. It's an end of an age. And even Second Ezra 6 and 9 says that the end, just like Jacob had the heel of Esau, the end of Esau's age is the beginning of Jacob. So and you've heard that saying, we've got next and things of that nature. But just to impress upon the people right now, those who are listening and those who will watch this at their convenience, we are coming to an end, not the end of the world, but an end of an age, an end of an era. Babylon is about to fall. The system of Babylon is about to fall, and they know it. So what they're trying to institute is AI to be a global captivity of not only Yasharel, but of all the other nations. They're looking to AI to do this. AI is integrated and migrated into everything that we know. And so we have to be, I'm thinking of what Yahusha said. He said, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. He wants us to understand what's going on. Don't be ignorant. In another place, I think it was Shaul says, don't let that day overtake you unaware. Where we are right now, as I observe what's going on a global scale with all the nations, we are getting very, very close to the fall of the Babylonian Empire, the Babylonian system, and Babylonia as far as a location. And so, what's when I know that's going to happen, then what's my mindset? Not only what's my mindset, because I don't move in fear. I'm not trying to provoke fear. We're giving out knowledge and wisdom. It says in Hosea, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." You can't bury your head in the sand. Can't bury your head and say, "Oh, I don't want to think. Oh, it's too fearful. I don't want to deal with it. I'm just afraid." You can't do that. We have to acknowledge what is before us. We have to acknowledge that prophecy is coming to pass. And I was listening to Zakin Johnson, and that's one thing that the Christian church does not want to do. They cannot interpret the prophecy because they think they're not going to be here. Oh no, you're going to be here. We have to deal with the prophecy that is going to come, to pass. And we don't have a lot of time, but just observing what has happened in the last few days, in the last week, where we are at war. They don't want to say it's war, but we're at war. They're talking about negotiations with Iran and the intermediators, and they're also looking at the blockade, which is not too much of a blockade when the oil that Iran wants to get out gets out, goes to the different nations that are allies to them. But you have a United States blockade. Um, we are in a position where you don't hear too much about. They do all this bragging and boasting about what they're going to bomb and everything like that. But if you look at their what's remaining of their artillery, it's almost out, and that's why they want an indefinite cease of military action. You know, they don't want the United States is really not looking at an escalation right now because most of their missiles and everything has expired. They're almost in a place of desperation, along with Israel, the state of Israel. That is a place of desperation. So we're coming to a change. We're coming to the end of an era. There's a lot of people that know it. We are being manipulated by the commander in chief. The markets are being manipulated by him, and so when this happens, when the fall of this nation happens, and the fall of Babylon happens, it's going to happen fast. It's not going to be a long, drawn out thing. It's going to happen quickly. And what what I'm doing, and what I would encourage others is to prepare for that first wave. And when I say first wave, a run on the ATMs, a run on the banks, the emptying of the cupboard, or I said cupboard, but the shelves in the stores. There's going to be a run on all of your stores where there's foods and goods and things for survival. There's going to be a run on that. This first wave, if you're able to make it through the first wave, because a lot of people won't, then you're going to be in a better position. Um, and it's not going to be too long from now. And those who are actually preparing themselves, I heard Zakim Bateman, I think it is, in the transition from our current monetary system into cryptocurrency, which is going to be global. Uh, Iran said that they were going to take the toll that they're putting on all the nations. They're going to take it in Bitcoin. you know, People are Bitcoin. You know, when the dollar falls, this nation falls. You're talking about a nation that is $39 trillion in debt, and the next Fed chairman, whose name is Walsh, when he comes in, he's talking about, let's just wipe out the debt. Let's make $39 trillion of our debt disappear. What's going to be the fallout of that? What's going to be the outcome of that? This Babylon that's boasted worldwide of how great they are, how mighty they are, the military, everything else. They sit on top of the hill. They command all the other nations. That age of the global north is coming to an end. We're coming to an end of an age. We're coming to an end of an era, and it's going to be important for us to survive. Now, it does say several places in Jeremiah, the 51st chapter, it does say in at least two places where it says flee. You're going to have to flee out of Babylon because judgment is coming on on Babylon. And so what I'm doing now in my mindset and in my preparation, I'm fleeing. I'm preparing myself for the exit, because I know when that first wave hits, you'll have some that many will be consumed out of that first wave. They won't be able to survive, you know. So what I'm doing is, this is just a personal thing that I'm doing for my house, is being able to manage and survive that first wave, because when all of this breaks down, and it's time for us to flee. If you're not prepared to go when that trumpet sounds, and when the Most High Yah and the Ruach is moving you to get out, and you still stay in here, it's going to be difficult to survive. It's going to be difficult to survive. I did want to read. I did want to read in Revelation, because this is the 18th chapter where we coming out of, and I want to Revelation 18. I'm gonna start with verse number 9, and I'm just gonna read down probably the 13 or 14, but start with verse number 9. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold, because there's going to be a total different platform of trading. The merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones, and of pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet, and all fine wood, and all manner vessels of ivory, and all manner vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beast, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men, and the fruits that thy soul lusteth after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all. And one of the nations in the last days that has held slaves is this nation that is we're referring to as Babylon. In the 1800, I think it was 1864, if I'm not mistaken, the Emancipation Proclamation. But this was the last great world power that held slaves, and so it's all written here in the Revelation and the prophets, and I don't read that to bring fear on anybody. I just read, just like it tells us we have to prepare, because that day is coming, and when it hits, it's going to happen fast, within 1 hour. It's not gonna be a long drawn out. When the collapse of the dollar comes, it's going to be overnight. When there's a run on the ATMs, it's going to be overnight. When there's a run on the banks are closed, it's going to be overnight. You're going to go to gas stations, we have no more fuel. You go to the grocery stores, the shelves are clear. There's nothing on the shelf to purchase. When this happens, we definitely have to be prepared. And so that's what I'm doing now. Me and my household, we are preparing, especially that first wave that goes through. You're going to have to survive that first hour, and so there's just some things that we're doing. I'm not an advisor, a financial advisor to anyone, just giving out some information. But I think we need to prepare ourselves for that hour. And I'll yield. I'm gonna land my plane right there.
Wow, that's a lot of information. There was so many points I wanted to elaborate on, uh, but I'm gonna pick it up where you left off, Zakin Hasek, because you talked about the financial collapse. Uh, you talked about what's happening with the straight arm moves, the Bitcoin, and everything, the transferring of currencies, the transitioning of currency. Actually, uh, we have to realize this: when America dollar, the hegemony, collapse. Not only does it collapse here, but everybody that has been using the dollar because it's the central currency of the world, their economy collapse as well. So when we talk about, uh, and this goes back to what Zakin Sauls was talking about, the seals. That was actually my second uh, what I was going to do in my second go around, talking about the seals. And I'll get to that. But we have to realize that this is just because it's a global economy and everything was predicated on the dollar. When the dollar collapsed, it's going to, with the exception of the Brits and those countries that are moving away from the dollar, when it collapsed, those countries collapse as well, because we have held, everybody has drinking of our wine, y'all, and have taken of our delicacies. That's what it's talking about. So when we talk about the collapse and the seals, they go hand in hand. You see, so the seals, they'll come from out of Revelations 5 through 8. All right. And it also talks about the scroll that was sealed that only the Mashiach had the power to open, and the scrolls represent unfolding the judgment. It represents exposing the world's system and the transition into the new world order. That's what the scrolls represent. So the first seal, as we talked, Zakane began to talk about, uh, is about false power and the conquest. Uh, a rider on a white horse goes out and conquering. This, it looks like a religious thing, but it isn't. It represents deception, false prophets, the leadership, and false dominion. And this is the early stages of the system that appears to be strong and unified. I was just, I mean, as a side note, I was just thinking about how uh, Trump tried to read the Bible, Second Chronicles 7:14. I'm thinking, this dude, man, he just don't get it. He just don't get it. He's gonna read Second Chronicles 7:14 as and what it reminded me of is that he's going to position himself as this righteous leader. Again, that's what the first seal talked about: righteous leader, false prophet. So now we're looking at Sunday laws, as I can saw. We're looking at him declaring things, trying to look righteous, but he's crooked as the letter S. But the second seal, which represents war, peace is taken from the earth, conflict between nations. We see that we are in the midst of it. We got internal instability within our own nation and other nations. There's strife, there's conflict with that. They talk about this great civil war that's going to happen within America and some of the other places. It says nation against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. Nations are people. We have an internal conflict, and kingdom against kingdom are what we're looking at now. Iran against Israel, the United States, Ukraine, and all of Russia. That's what we're looking at right now. And the third seal is total economic collapse. So again, Daniel talks about the kingdoms and how they fall, but Revelations in the seals shows you how it's done. Okay, so we could in the mouth of two or three witnesses, I can solve that everything be established. So the seals The third seal, the scales are inflated, the food prices are inflated. That is what this is all about over there in the Strait of Hormuz. You can't get no oil to bring this to transportation and all of that other stuff. Now the cost of goods and services are going to go up because the price of oil is going up. So they have to spread that cost to the consumers. It's a game. It's all about. It's a bunch of BS, man. I don't want to cuss on here, but it's like you got, like I said, 20% of all the oil is being eliminated, but 80% remains. But yet we have oil crisis, we have inflation. You have Zaki Hasten and I was just talking right before prayer on Shabbat how high everything is. Because my wife goes to the grocery store, but man, I go to the grocery store and I pick up a few items, and man, I'm like, wait a minute. How much? I'm counting the items in my bag to make sure I got everything because the price is so high. And on my vehicle, $20 don't even get the light off anymore. So here we are, and that's what they're talking about. It says you got inequalities, luxuries. Luxuries are preserved for the rich, but basic stuff for everybody else is so inflated. And it said that this is where the globalization type system starts to really crack. When you start seeing this inflation, when you start seeing prices out of norm and everything. So the fourth seal is death by sword, famine, and pestilence. And now this is where everything is compound. The crises are compound. The systems cannot sustain life effectively, and full systematic failure begins. So now we're looking at the things that used to sustain us, the jobs and the everyday life. It begins to falter, and it's not being able to sustain us as a family and mankind. So the fifth seal, it says it's where the exposure of corruption and the cry out for justice starts to happen. And it reminds me of Revelation 6 and 9. I'm gonna read that real quick. It says, and he opened the fifth seal, and I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of Yah and for the testimony which they held. And they cried out with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Yah, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwelleth on the earth? And his response was this. He said, and a white robe was given unto every one of them, and it was said unto them that they should rest yet for a little season until the fellow servants also and their brethren, that they should be killed as they were should be fulfilled. And I beheld when he had opened the six seals. I'm gonna stop right there. He says, there's for this truth, for this what we are dealing with, what we are believing, what we are walking in. You're going to come to a point in a crossroad where you're going to have to testify for what you believe. You're going to have to make a decision. He said there were those souls that was up under the altar crying, when you going to avenge us for what we have done, for what they've done to us? Because we stood on the word of Yah. So when you going to avenge us? He says, hold on, because there's a few more that I'm gonna have to test. Everybody say they believe in me. Everybody say that they down with the Mashiach. But I'm gonna see. I'm gonna see if when your neck is on the line, or when They tell you that you can't get no food for your babies unless, or you're going to be like the mother and the 7 sons and Eleazar and Maccabees. Or are you going to give in? So there's going to come a time where you're going to have to, your faith is going to be tested. And really, faith is not faith unless it's tested. Hallelujah. It said they cried out. How long? So the hidden justice is going to be exposed. And the righteous versus corrupt is going to become real clear under this, the 5th seal. And it's that seal that spiritual dimensions are going to be revealed. They're going to, the spiritual dimensions that are behind these systems. You got these shapeshifters, you got these, you got these reptilians, you got these bloodline families and folks that are whose blood is still corrupt from Genesis 6, running this world, running this country, and all that's going to be revealed. Then you go to the 6th seal, and the 6th seals talked about earthquakes and the shaking and the shakings of rulers who are going to run into the caves and hide. But there's no hide. You can't hide from the Most High. You can build all these bunkers. That's what they was talking about, these caves. They got these underground bunkers and these elaborate cities underground. That is not going to save you. The earth is Yahuwah's and all there is. Don't you think you know about where your bunker is? You're not going to escape. And this is the collapse moment that Daniel was pointing to, when it gets to that point where political and natural and cosmetic disruptions start to happen. You got and leaders start to lose control. Well, we already got one that's already lost control, but I'm talking about real leaders who thought they would think they were leaders begin to lose control because these things are starting to happen, and it's going to be frequent. It's going to start happening more rapidly. You're not going to be able to handle it. They're not going to be able to handle what the Most High is about to do to them and to this world and to this corrupt world. They're not going to be able to handle it. They're going to lose control because the Most High is in control, and He's going to let them know. So at this point, this is the true transition of it all in the 7th seal. It says there was silence in heaven. He pressed pause before the next phase, which is the trumpets. He did all this stuff, and then the Most High pressed pause. And it says it was silence in heaven, and the transition from the collapse to the new world order. This is the transition of collapse to the new world order. The old system that we are currently living in is effectively finished. Now, before it gets finished, as Zakane Hasten was talking about, we're going to have to make some real decisions, whether to leave or whether to stay. You don't want to get caught and trapped in the new system because it's all about control. So this is the place. This is the place where we must begin to make decisions on what we're going to do. And if for those that are preparing now, you're going to have a place to land. You can't wait on your family and your family's permission to do this. You have to take the lead so that when this stuff happens, your family would know that everything that you was talking about that came from the Most High, you was right. And they will have no problem making that transition. A lot of folks are staying behind because they waiting. They like Lot's wife. They waiting on the everybody to approve what you are doing. They think you crazy. They think that you are a conspiracy theorist because you got food in wherever you store that at, and all of that. You got weapons and ammunitions and all of that preparing. They think that you're a conspiracy theorist, but no. The fact is that you got to get enough of them because they not. And here we are at a stage where, we're going to have to make decisions, hard decisions. It's going to be the difference between Noah, who built an ark in preparation for the rain, for the move, and Lot, who left with the go bag. You see, Lot left with the go bag. He had nothing but whatever he could carry. But Noah prepared, and they thought he was crazy too. So we're going to have, this is where we at, y'all. This is the season that we're in. We are that generation, y'all. We are that generation. And folks don't realize it because they got comfortable. They've gone back to sleep, as it was in the days of Noah, eating, drinking, and partying and marrying and doing all of that other stuff. But this is where we are. So we got to get prepared. Your folks got to get passports, even if they don't trust you. They don't believe in you. Tell them to get passports. Because, the seventh seal, like I said, is the pause right before the trumpets. You see, when the trumpets blow, you better be ready to go. I'm going to tell you that right now. And, the old system is gone, and the new system is about to take effect. And that is great tribulation. That you don't want that, because right before the pause is where great tribulation is introduced, because he's not going to come back before the tribulation. He's coming back during the tribulation or after it. He stops it. He said, unless I stop it, it won't be nothing left. So I'm going to land my plane right there and turn it over to Zaki Sauls.
All right, Mr. Picard, time is getting away as elite in us, so I'm just going to read something quick, and I won't go through what I have. I'm going to give you some quick highlights. How about that? First, I'm glad Zakim Bateman stopped what he stopped at. Let's go to Revelation chapter 8. I'm going to read chapter 8, verse 6 through 12. Then I'm going to jump to 9, 1 or 2, and 13 through 16. Then jump to Revelation 11, verses 15 and 17. So here we go. Revelation 8, starting at verse 6. And the seven angels, or Malak, which had the seven trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. And the first angel sound, and there followed hail and mingled with blood, and they were cast to the earth. And the third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it was a great mountain burning with fire, was cast into the sea. And the third part of the sea became blood. And the third part of the creature which was in the sea and had life died. And the third part of the ships were destroyed. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from the Shamahims, burning as it was a lamp. And it fell upon the third part of the river and upon the fountains of water. Okay, 11. And the name of the star is called wormwood. And the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the water because they was made bitter. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Now let's go over one chapter over, chapter 9, verse 1 and 2. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from the heaven of the Shamahims unto the earth or the erect, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of the great furnace, and the sun and the air was darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. Now let's drop down to verse 13 through 16. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar which were before Elohim, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels was loose, which was prepared for an hour and a day, and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Ooh, goodness. Verse 16. And the number of the army of the horsemen was 200,000. And I heard the number of them. Now go over to Revelation 11, verse 15 through 17. 11, 15 through 17. And the seventh angel sounded, and there was a great voice in the Shamahis of heaven saying, the kingdom of this world are become the kingdom of our Elohim and of his Mashiach or Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. And the 24 elders which sat before Elohim or Yahuwah on their seats fell upon their faces and worshiped Yahuwah, saying, we give thee thanks, O Yahuwah Elohim Almighty, which are, which was, and which are to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. Quickly, you must understand, Mr. McCarr, what hour we are in, the time we are in. Just as Zakim Hazlett started this, you better know, because when that last hour hit, and you tell them make them run to these banks, but where are we? Where are we today? Listen, I'm going to go through this quickly. I got some notes here. I'm going to run through them. I don't have time to break them down. So y'all going to have to just catch the next time. But listen, Zakim Johnson started the second round about Christianity and these men out of Deuteronomy. If you hear this, go there. Don't listen. Listen, Christianity would lead you into a lie. Stop following that stuff, please. We ain't trying to bash anybody, but we trying to tell you, you better get with the truth and follow them. They taught me years ago that the trumpets happened after the tribulation. That ain't true. I'm telling y'all, that ain't true. You better know what hour we in right now. Zakim Hazlett, thank you, sir, because we getting ready for that last song. And these trumpets is getting ready to blast. No. Let me change that. Let me stop. As Zakim Johnson said earlier, I ain't trying to unlearn to relearn. No. Let me give you the right way. The trumpets had already blown. Not all of them. There's some of them have already been completed. Write this down, or hope you can come back and listen to this recording. I'm gonna run through them. Here we go, real quick, and I'm through. Trumpet number one. You can go back and read this because I'm not gonna break them down because I gotta rush through them. The first trumpet. You gotta remember what happened. But first trumpet, let me say this. Most of y'all, my great-great-grandparents told me about this. World War I. You know how many people died? Anybody got an idea how many died in World War I? You can Google it if you don't know. 8.2 million. Never has there ever been a war that killed that many people. So follow along. Just listen. Let's go to trumpet 2 real quick. Trumpet 2. Now, this is what got about the 1/3 part of the ships. World War II. You can Google this too. Everything we say, Alex said, go fact check. How many ships there was in World War II? How many was sunk? It's going to blow your mind because it's going to come out to 1/3. How many people died in World War II? After World War II, this is when they institute, United Nations and all this stuff to try to stop all these wars. But World War II, anybody got an idea, the Miss Picard, how many people died? If you had 8.2 million died in World War I, man, what World War II had? 52 million dead. I'm just giving you this quick and moving out the way because I don't want to break it all down. Because time. World War III. Wormwood, that's what you need to look at. So if we can find something happen with this word wormwood, it was this area in 1986, April, in an area where they had Chernobyl, the nuclear reaction that happened there. That took place in April 26, 1986, in Chernobyl. There was a nuclear blast. Okay? And it turned the water bitter into wormwood. Fourth, Trumpet, 1989, November the 9th, the fall of the Berlin Wall. You get that out of Revelation 8:12. The last one that's taking place, we got two more left, but the fifth, Revelation 9, verses 1 and 2. Kuwait. There's some of you all who was in military, who was you in the army. They lied about weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein had these weapons. Saddam got mad because U.S. was coming over, getting ready to take over everything. He set 700 oil fields ablaze. The sky was blackened with smoke. 3 months long, they could not see the sun. 3 whole months. This took place in 1990 through 91. Go fact check. So we're ready now. That's why Zakim Hazlett stated, we're in war. It's the coming of an end of an era or age. You better understand where we are. Last thing is here. We're getting prepared for the last one. And Zakim Bateman and Hazlett talked about this one, talking about war. This battle we in right now, or this war they in right now. The scripture says that this next one, 1/3 of mankind has got to perish. We thought 52 million was something in World War II. But no, this one is coming. 1/3 of mankind got to die. And there's going to be an army of over 200 million soldiers. And it's going to start at the Euphrates River. How many people on the face of this earth, people? 8 billion, a little over 8 billion. So 1/3 of that today will be close to over 2.3 billion people going to die. That war is getting prepared. And I got the 7th one that's coming, but let me just say this and then I'm yielding. It's no ironic that they are in this conflict with Iran. Do anybody know, and I was going to do this, but I'm going to do it quick here. Anybody know the area which China can boast 200 million soldiers? Then over there by Iran, I told you about the Euphrates River, you have Turkey, Iraq, Iran. These are your areas of these Islamic nations. That's where they're coming through. It's Turkey, Syria, Iraq, and Iran. All of that is Islamic. They are all Islamic. And they all going to join together. So that can be a possibility. So, and then the last one is, of course, the 7th Trump. That one's found in Revelation 11:15-17. I'm done. I'm a yield there, Doc. I don't want to go into no more because it'll take too much time.
Zacchaeus Johnson, final comments.
Well, I know the Ruach is subject to the prophet, so I'm gonna try to be obedient and make my comments brief. I do. It's difficult because so much information has been given, and I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend we put a part 2 on this because there's so much information, and people are intrigued. But this is not new information, though. Let me try to wrap this up. This is not new information. Scripture is not new. It's been there. And now we're living it. We're living it now. And for some, we had got hooked on television. We done got hooked on AI. We don't even know what's real, what's not real. And we take what's on television, AI, computer generated, whatever, and we try to mesh it up with the word. The word stands by. Let me just read something. Let me read this first. And then, I'm gonna read out. And I know
about to
people
pop
got
the clutch
problems.
now. You
No,
about to
I ain't
pop
gonna
the
pop.
clutch.
I'm gonna be obedient. I'm gonna be obedient.
Okay.
Saul,
I see it in you.
he wind me up, and I'm trying not to let go, but I don't like when Sauls do that, but he did it. He talking about, well, I'm gonna leave that for next step. Man, then what you just went on and did it, because now I gotta. Okay, let me just go here. Man, baby, why you tease folk like that? So you don't got me all amped up. All right, let me hurry up because Hastel's looking at me. Romans, I know people got problem with Paul, and I ain't tripping, but he does make some sense sometimes. And I'm gonna use what he says in Romans, the 3rd chapter. He says, "What advantage then has a Jew, or what profit is there of circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because that unto them were committed the oracles of Elohim." The word was given. We had it. It was given to us. But we behaved like Esau and threw it away. Let me hurry up. Verse 3. This is where I really want to hit hard. For what if some did not believe? That's what's sad. He's not talking about the other nations right here. He's talking about the Yahudim. The Yahudim who do not believe. He said, what if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of Elohim without effect? He said, certainly not. Yea, let Elohim be true, but every man a liar. As it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sayings and mightest overcome when thou art judged. But if our unrighteousness commend the righteousness of Elohim, what shall we say? Is Elohim unrighteous, who taketh vengeance? I speak as a man. Certainly not. For then how shall Elohim judge the world? For if the truth of Elohim had more abounded through my lie unto his glory, why yet am I also judged as a sinner, and not rather as he that slanderously reported, and as some affirm that we say, let us do evil that good may come. Whose judgment is just? Listen, y'all. All of this word is going forth. Word is power. Word is liberation. The Most High has given us his word to liberate us. The topic today, Babylon is fallen. The end of an age, the end of a period, the end, the end. Not so much the world, not so much the world, but as we see powers transition, economic transition, the financial market, all this stuff is transition. And it was all right there in the word. But we got hooked on everything else except the word. And he said it. Paul said it. The oracles was given to us, which means we already knew, but we didn't pay attention. It was already handed to us. This don't catch us by surprise. All this is a fulfillment what's already written. And I got to close. But anyway, hallelujah. This has been great, Zykenio. And to all our listeners, I hope you enjoyed this. As much as I want to keep going, and as much as I want to pop the clutch, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to yield. I'm going to digress. And I say shalom to you all. Hallelujah. I yield.
This subject, I do believe we need to do a part two, maybe even a part three. There's just so much that is already written in prophecy and things that are developing right before our eyes. But I just want to read Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men. The Most High is ruling over all these kingdoms because his prophecy that he spoke is going to come to pass. Whether you agree or disagree with our current president, his resume was laid out before us before anybody elected him. He is the basis and the vilest of men, but you have to understand the Most High set him up because the Most High rules in all the kingdoms of the earth, because everything that was written in the prophecies shall come to pass. And I'll yield right there.
Zaki and Sauls, you said it, didn't you? Earlier you said it, that we're going to have to do a part two, didn't you? And you said we would know why once we start and finish that we're going to have to do a part two. Oh, my goodness. I lost my page. So that's around with you. I'm going to read from Daniel. I'm going to read Daniel, the second chapter to 44, and then I'm going to conclude my remarks. It says, and in the days of these kings shall Elohim of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to another people, but it shall break into pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of a mountain without hands that make it break into pieces, the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, the gold, the great gods have made, thy great Elohim hath made known to the kings what shall come to pass hereafter, and the dream is certain, and the interpretation is sure. This was Nebuchadnezzar's conclusion. After everything, he realized that all the kingdoms before and after him, because he was looking at that statue, are all going to come to pass, and the kingdom of the Most High is going to stand. And I yield.
Right. Shalom. I'm going to just read out what I have without speaking. Jeff, so I'm going to read from Revelations chapter 19, verse 11 through 15, Then I'm going to go to Isaiah 63, 1 through 6, and then back to Revelation 6 and verse 17 only. Let's start. Revelation 19, verse 11. And I saw heaven or the Shamahees open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he does judge and make war. His eyes was as a flame of fire, and his head was many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Elohim. And the armies which were in the Shamahims follow him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. And he treaded the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Almighty Elohim. Now, Isaiah chapter 63, beginning at verse 1 down to verse 6. Who is this that cometh from Edom with thou garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speakest in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thy apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fat? I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in my anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiments. For the day of vengeance is in my heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. And there was none to help, and I wonder that there was none to uphold. Therefore my own arm brought salvation unto me, and my fury it upheld me. And I will tread down the people in my anger, and make them drunk in my fury, and I will bring down their strength to the earth. Now, Revelation chapter 6 and verse 17. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? I yield.
Well, man, this has really been a very interesting subject, and there's lots of conversation that was had. I hope you were taking notes, but you can go back and review this at a later date because there was a lot of information that was disseminated. Yes, I think we will. I think the consensus is that we will have to do a part two to this because there's so much more that we could talk about. There's so much more that we didn't touch on that we can touch on to go deeper into what is happening in these end times. So again, we will do a part two. And with that, I just thank you for your attention and participation. I say shalom, shalom to the greater Mishpachah. Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, family. Shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, Mr. Shalom, shalom.